Hello and welcome to the Family Business. I'm Joe Castiglione Jr., have Isaac Stoops with me today. And then we have a very, very, very special guest, the big dog himself, head football coach of the University of South Carolina, Coach Shane Beamer. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
It is awesome to be on. I don't know about Big Dog, but you're kind of say that. But no, big fan of what you guys are doing. I was a big fan of you guys when I was in Norman, and excited to be on with y'all today.
We're a big fan of you. So we always ask our opening question revolving the family business. So as a coach who's been under and on staff with a ton of coaches that have just transcended the game all the way from your start, Mississippi State, Tennessee, under Kirby Smart, Lincoln, Coach Spurrier, what makes a good family for a football team? What are the components of a good family?
On a football team,
Staff, the whole program.
yeah, I just think trust and togetherness in my mind. And I think it's harder than ever in today's time, college athletics, just because rosters change over so much. But to me, there's got to be trust that each team member, family member has with one another as well. And then there's just got to be a relationship piece, connection piece, whatever you want to call it, where guys are just connected. The best teams I've been on have always been like the most connected teams, and they have a great trust factor. And I don't think it's any different in a family or on a team. Those are two things that stand out to me.
Yeah, you come from such like a prestigious football family, and that's why you're the perfect guest for the show. What was it like, kind of on the opposite side? You talk about what makes a good family, like in a football team, but what was it like growing up, with your dad and with your family? From we've both been around it too and grown up around it, but kind of give us your experience.
Yeah, the three of us. I mean, we've been in the middle of it since we can remember, and was no different for me from that standpoint. My earliest memories were my dad coaching at Murray State, small school out in Kentucky, and I was running around in Murray, Kentucky, and then he became the head coach at Virginia Tech in 1987, and that was just awesome. Like you guys, just growing up in the locker room of a college team and being on the practice field and riding the buses to games and looking up to his players as like my heroes and all that. And I just always remember, how cool it was as a son, growing up to be able to experience things like that as well. But and it also helped me too. Like my experience was a little bit different than yours, Isaac, because your dad became the head coach at Oklahoma, and they won the national championship. Was it the second year
Yeah, a year
that they
later.
won the national championship? Yeah. So my dad became the head coach at Virginia Tech, and it was 7 seasons before we even went to a bowl game. So, I can remember going to or moving to Virginia Tech in my fifth grade year, sixth grade year, seventh grade year, eighth grade year, ninth grade, and 10th grade. Virginia Tech did not go to a bowl game, and they had losing seasons in all but two of those seasons. So it was a really good experience for me growing up, just seeing the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. Helps me now as a coach. But then understanding too how cool it was that I was still getting to experience being around a college football team and growing up around that, and makes you appreciate winning even more once they hit my junior year of high school, Virginia Tech, and went to a bowl game, and kind of the rest is history. But no better way to grow up, and my own son's doing it right now, and I'm able to draw back on experiences that I had growing up when I was his age.
We had the Venable brothers on there last week, and we were talking about these hilarious stories we had, growing up around the program as sons, the shenanigans and everything that entails. Do you have a favorite memory or a moment as a kid growing up, as a coach's kid, around any of the programs that your dad coached at?
And there's so many. I can remember when I was living in Murray, Kentucky, when my dad was at Murray State. We had, I think it was like when I turned 8 years old, we had my birthday's in March, so we had my birthday party at a Murray State Racer spring practice, man. And that was big, for all my buddies to be able to come to practice. And we had like pizza on the practice field, and that was pretty cool. And you guys can always relate when you're growing up. You kind of want to be cool around the players and want them to like you and things like that. And my parents still tell the story when my dad was coaching at Murray State. They were getting ready to play Eastern Kentucky, and it was an away game. And at the hotel we were staying at, there was like an arcade in the hotel. And I'm like 8 or 9 years old at this point. Somehow or another, I end up in the arcade about the time the buses are like loading up and getting ready to go to the game. And the whole team is on the bus at Murray State getting ready to go play Eastern Kentucky, which was a rival at the time. And my mom told my dad, like, "Where's Shane?" So you can imagine how mortified I am even telling this story, but apparently my dad or somebody from the staff had to go back into the hotel. They found me in the arcade and they dragged me out. I get on the bus and I'm still going to be like Mr. Cool Guy and get on the bus and go to the back of the bus and like hang out with the players. And I can remember this, like getting on the bus and my dad physically like grabbing me as I walked down the aisle and ripping me and yanking me into the seat that he was sitting in as well. But I mean, I feel awful to this day about it, but it really, was a moment that stays with me. Just, I'm never going to be late again. I'm always on time for something. And it's experiences like that, probably you guys can relate to. Just things, I was telling somebody this the other day. I mean, there's just so many lessons that I experienced growing up that made a huge impact on me that I still draw from today as a coach, whether it be, doing the job the right way and being on time and things like that. I can all draw back to experiences growing up as the son of a coach.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of like really fun experiences, but a lot of invaluable experiences that you kind of learn from growing up around that environment, like just the aspect of accountability by watching like all the players do it and just seeing the level of respect that everybody has for each other, because I always looked up to them like so much, but not everybody always, wants to, like, for instance, we get asked the question a lot, did we want to do what our dads did? Did you ever consider wanting to do anything else? Like, did other professions attract you?
Yeah, it did. I really, it was one of those, I always kind of felt drawn to coaching for the obvious reasons, but it was also one of those things I wasn't really sure. And I knew I wanted to be involved in sports. I knew I wanted to be involved with people somehow, some way. And it was one of those things, like I graduated college. I graduated in December of 1999. And I had some other options on the table one was in the media industry as well. And that I thought about, and it was just kind of one of those things like, okay, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I want to do this coaching thing. I want to try this out, make sure this is what I want to do. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go do something else. But I don't want to like go down the path doing something else and always wonder, man, should I have tried coaching? And it was one of those things. I started out as a graduate assistant in July of 2000 was when I started working. And like from day one, I never considered doing anything else. I mean, I just loved it and knew that it's what I was supposed to be doing. But it's probably like you guys in a lot of ways. Like growing up, I was more into basketball and baseball playing as a youth growing up because everybody was just always like, just assumed that I was going to play football and be this great football player. And in some ways, I don't know if resent is the word, but in some ways I was like, no, like I'm going to go play basketball and baseball. I don't have to play football. And it just so happened that not that I was a great football player, but that's the sport that I was best at. And then it's probably in some ways coaching too. And my parents, like y'all, they never pressured or encouraged me to do anything. They just said, do what makes you happy, and whatever you do, just do it to the best of your abilities. And thought hard about it, trying to find another avenue, but it was I did coaching and glad I did.
You make an interesting point. It's not like a resentment, but it's almost like you want to make your own path in terms of like, you said you wanted to play basketball or baseball. I kind of was the same way. I wanted to play baseball for a long time in college. Didn't pan out clearly.
I wanted to play hockey, but there's not a lot of hockey.
Wrong state. Yeah. I think you're in the wrong state for that one.
Also, knowing what I think about you would be a great hockey player, I bet. You just have that temperament. So not much hockey played in Oklahoma, though.
Yeah, I drank to toughen me up growing up. Too many stitches.
That's what you're saying. Like the team docs, they got more calls from the coaches for the kids than the actual players. After hours. It's not a player calling them, hey. It's like, hey, Isaac and Drake got in a bad fight, and Isaac needs to be stitched up, or at least the bowl trips. I know we wore out our welcome a little bit too many times.
You obviously chose football. You played at Virginia Tech. We were talking earlier. We were trying to figure out like what years you were there, and then Michael Vick was there. So you played with Michael Vick, correct?
Yeah, so my freshman year was 1995, and then Michael Vick's freshman year or first year was 1998. So I was there 95, I redshirted, then I played 96, 97, 98, 99. Mike came in 98, redshirted, and then played in 99 and 2000. So we were on the 99 team that played for the national championship that year. And then 98 at Virginia Tech, we were actually pretty good. We lost 3 games that season, all like in the final minute. And Mike was redshirting, and we got down to our 3rd-team quarterback that year, but my dad had promised Mike's high school coach that they would redshirt him because that's what they wanted. But yeah, we were together for 2 seasons.
He was pretty electric, wasn't he? Or I mean, what was it like?
He was redshirting in 98. Like, you should have seen him. He's the scout team quarterback in 1998.
Some great looks.
We got a pretty good team at Virginia Tech, and we got a pretty good defense, but Michael Vick is your scout team quarterback. But it was one of those things, like, you saw it in practice. You knew he was really talented. You knew he was really good. But it's still one of those things because you guys know the quarterback is, so limited in practice. You don't really get to see true like game like whether he's getting hit or whatever until you play a game. And I can remember his first game that he played in, because back then you didn't have the rule that you could play 4 games or whatever it is and save your redshirt year. Back then, if you played, you lost your eligibility. So he didn't play a game at all in 98. But I still remember his first game in 99 when he did get out there, and it's like, oh my God. We knew he was good, but he's even more electric than we realized, or at least I thought that way.
He was a trailblazer in terms of that dynamic quarterback of passing and running. Kind of remember Kyler, the same thing, the year that he had to sit out from Texas A&M. Everybody, of course, we had Baker, so it's not like, oh, we need a quarterback right now, but it was like, dang, this kid's good. And he's just tearing up the defense. Mike Stoops was livid.
Too, like my dad would always say, ever since after Michael Vick came through college at Virginia Tech, my dad used to always say when he was coaching that he would go into high schools, and all these high school coaches, if they had like a dynamic, like athletic running quarterback that could throw, they'd always be like, hey, Coach Beamer, I got the next Michael Vick for you. And he always used to, there is no next Michael Vick. But I'll never forget this, guys. He came, my first year at OU was, when did I get there? In 2018. And my dad came and watched one of our practices. We were in the stadium at Oklahoma, spring of 2018. And he sees Kyler Murray for the first time. And I'll never forget, we were there underneath the stadium right outside the weight room where the cold tubs are and all that. We were standing right there, and Kyler walked up, and I introduced my mom and dad to Kyler. And my dad told him, he's like, all these high school coaches have always told me that they had the next Michael Vick for me, and I didn't think it was possible. He's like, I just watched you practice. You are the closest thing to Michael Vick that I've ever seen. And I'll never forget him telling him that. And then 12 games later or whatever, or 13 games later, he was winning the Heisman Trophy, and was certainly, my dad pegged that one.
He called it. Yeah. It's almost like he has an eye for talent.
It wasn't hard to miss with Kyler.
No kidding. And even then, I always tell people, like, Kyler was great in practice, and you saw this. He was great in practice, but he was a gamer. Like, it was the next level. Like, he was good in practice. He was great, but I'm not sure you'd be able to see, like, exactly how he was able to play. And that's, of course, a credit to his play style. But when the lights came on, or even if it was 11 a.m. kick that we've become accustomed to, Kyler just flipped the switch. Yeah. And so those guys are hard to project. You know, you never know in practice, and then they get to the games. With your time at OU, we have to talk a little bit before, one of the biggest or softest spot in Oklahoma fan history is the Rose Bowl against Georgia. And so a lot of people who may not know that you were actually on the opposite sideline of that game. And so that game's widely considered, maybe not after last year the best game, but one of the best playoff games we've had to date. So we had to ask, of course, you were the special teams coordinator and tight ends coach, I believe, at Georgia. What was it like from your point of view, that sideline of that game and just going through, and especially all the different stars on both sides? You had Roquan, you had Baker, you had Mark Andrews, you had talent after talent, but just like watching the game unfold in person, because it's still like one of the most amazing games, regardless of the outcome from my
No,
side.
it was. It was amazing. I mean, I consider myself so blessed and grateful that I got to coach in that. Not just get to coach in the Rose Bowl, because I'd never been to the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, any of that until that trip, that game. So to be able to coach in it, but then have a game of that magnitude and such a great game, um, it was awesome. Obviously, knew going into the season or going into the game just how explosive and high powered this Oklahoma offense was with Baker Mayfield, and then Oklahoma jumps on us and we're like, what in the heck just happened? The way that OU jumped up early, and then obviously there was not to bring it up, but a little bit of a momentum shift right before the half as well with the squib kick and whatnot. And that was huge for us to be able to get 3 points out of that and get a little bit of momentum going into the half. But I can vividly remember, I know it sounds cheesy, but I can vividly remember, like, it's in the second half, probably about the beginning of the fourth quarter, and it's a TV timeout. And I can vividly remember, like, just kind of just, you got a second and you're like, so, y'all know who it is, you're like so locked into the game. But I can vividly remember there was this time where I just kind of looked up in the stands and the sun's setting behind me, and it just looks like a painting in the stands. And I was kind of looking around. I can remember thinking to myself, like, holy crap, like I'm coaching in the Rose Bowl, and this is what a game. What a shame it's going to be that somebody's going to lose this game. But what a great college football game, and how fortunate I felt at that moment to be a part of it. And obviously it turned out well for us, meaning Georgia that night. We were very fortunate to win that game, to say the least. But such a great game, so many great players that played in that game, so many unbelievable individual efforts and individual plays. I mean, that's one that anytime it's on, I'll still, go back or we'll sit down and watch for sure. But what an opportunity to be a part of, and and it was too because of just the respect that we had and I had for the Oklahoma program and the tradition of OU and what your dad had done, Isaac, and what your dad had done and was still doing, Joe. I mean, it was just a ton of respect for the opponent that we were playing that night. And you're right, what a game.
Yeah, we were lucky to steal you away from Georgia here at OU, and I know Josie was on that team, and then I eventually was student coaching for a little bit while you were on staff. What factored? You kind of just alluded to it, but what kind of factored in that decision to leave Georgia and come to Oklahoma ultimately?
Yeah, no, great question. I can, we won that game in the Rose Bowl, and then we played in the national championship game. Oklahoma lost a heartbreaker that night. We obviously lost a heartbreaker in the national championship game, because that's the game with Tua and the 2nd and 26th throw to Devontae Smith, and that's one that still makes me want to puke.
Vomit.
That we lost to this day. But I can remember I was sitting on the bus in Atlanta the next morning at the hotel, and we're getting ready to come back to Athens, and I got a text message from Lincoln Riley that just said, "Hey, are you free later this afternoon? Do you have time to talk?" And I didn't know what he wanted. I figured he wanted to talk about a coach he was hiring, or transfer, or our game, or something. So I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I got back to Athens, and I can remember my wife and I, we took the dog for a walk, or no, we didn't. We just took the kids out for a walk, and we were just walking through the neighborhood. And I called Lincoln, and he talked about this possibility and coming to OU, and what factored into it. Really, I felt like it was a lot of reasons. One, opportunity to grow as a coach. My wife's from Mississippi. We had never lived west of Starkville, Mississippi. Here's an opportunity to, get out of our comfort zone and grow as a family. Lincoln Riley and what Oklahoma was doing offensively at the time was lighting everybody up in college football. And I just felt like the opportunity to get connected with that program and that offense would really open up a lot of doors for me. I wanted to be a head coach. Not that I couldn't have gotten a head coaching opportunity from staying at Georgia and being the tight end special teams coach, but I felt like from a professional standpoint, it was a good move for me. But I'll be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this because you guys are on here, but both of y'all's dads had a big impact or influence on me making that decision, because I had so much respect, and still do have so much respect, for Coach Stoops and what he built there at Oklahoma, or rebuilt, whatever you want to call it, and then just the consistency that Coach Stoops had throughout his career, where every year he's just able to do it over and over and over again. I just thought it'd be pretty cool to be the same place where he had coached and have a chance to spend time around him and get to know him. And then Joe, your dad, I didn't know him, but his reputation across college athletics is second to none. And I just felt like, here from a football standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for me to make that move. And I loved Athens. I wasn't looking to leave. And honestly, Oklahoma would have been the only place I would have left to go be an assistant coach from Georgia. But the opportunity to just get to know Joe Castiglione, get connected with him, spend time with him and whatnot, I just felt it was like so many positives pointing me in that direction. And that's really what it came down to. Just opportunity to grow professionally, grow personally, and make a whole new set of connections, because this business, like any business, it's all who you know. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, man, I got a chance to go to Oklahoma and work for this coaching staff and get to know Bob Stoops and get to know Joe Castiglione. That'll just only help me as a coach. And that's really what it came down to. And it was an amazing 3 years.
I think it worked out a little bit too for all parties involved. I remember the first time I got to meet you, Coach. You called me in your office. Like, I got a text from you. You're like, hey, it's Coach Beamer. Like, you got a second to talk? Because I was playing running back at the time. And you're like, you got a second to talk? I'm like, heck yeah. Like, why does he want to talk to me? Like, there's a lot more important people to talk to me. And then called me in your office. You're like, hey, like, we want you to move to H-back. And I'm like, if it's the play under you, like, hell yeah. And so I did. I ended up getting injured, having surgery. But just like in the spring and then the fall, before I got injured, like just playing under you and playing under your coach, like it's easy to see that you're a player's coach and how much you care about, and just that year under you, like I can see like how much that's influenced me. And so I just want to say thank you for that. But I mean, it's just easy to see why your players love to play for you and so on. So, but I remember when he texted me, I was like, yeah, like, what does he want to do with me? Like, there's a
Am I in trouble, or is it a good thing?
I love being a head coach now because I get to do that and have those relationships with 120 players on our team. And that was, when I was an assistant coach, I loved it because I loved the relationship I had with the players that I coached at my position. But then I never wanted to be one of those guys that was only in my little bubble as a position coach. I mean, I wanted to be connected with every player on the team and was around great players and great people like both you guys and all your teammates as well. So I appreciate you saying that. Y'all helped me just as much as I helped you in any small way.
We had a great group too. Carson Meyer, Jeremiah Hall, a couple other good dudes. But one I had a story I had to bring up is when you headbutted Jeremiah Hall on the sideline, and then you actually broke some skin too. So just walk us through. Was that just like football moment? You're like, forget you don't even have a helmet on. You're like, I'm just gonna headbutt him, just celebrate.
Yeah, yeah. It was certainly a football moment. I love, and I'm still the same way. Like, I love seeing the players that I coach, the people that I care about have success. I mean, we work really, really hard, players, coaches, staff, get 12 guaranteed Saturdays a year. So game day should be fun, and I'm a passionate guy and always have been. So that was one. That was the Houston game, opening game of whatever year that was, 2019, I think.
Labor Day weekend.
Jay Hall scored, and it was just one of those things, like passionate, caught up in the moment, excited, and headbutted him. So normally you can get like the forehead, like right on the helmet, where it's not as terrible as it looks. But that one is one where he caught me like right on the screw, of the right above the face mask. Right on the screw is where he got me, and I really didn't think anything about it. But as soon as it hit me, I remember just wiping away and whatnot, like wiping away blood, and I didn't know what it looked like, but I could remember like later in the game, Jalen was our quarterback, and I don't know what I looked like, and probably in the first half because I hadn't been into the half yet, I guess is what it would have been. So I didn't know what I looked like, and I can remember staying on the sidelines, and Jalen Hurts is our quarterback, and Jalen just kind of keeps looking at me. And finally, he looks at me. He goes, "This is a family program, so I'll give the PG version. But what the bleep happened to you?" and it was because I had, all kinds of crap all over my face and whatnot. But yeah, we won the game. I still got a scar that to this day up here. But it was, and then I had to go in after the game. I remember Chris Watson, he had to stitch me up after the game in the training room. But it was awesome. You know, it was Jay Hall scored. We won the game. I was excited for him, and just kind of caught some crossfire and unintended consequences of the celebration.
Speaking of, like, you know, players, now you're at South Carolina now, obviously. We were talking about one of your most, like, newest electric players is
Nicholas Harbor.
Harbor, yeah. Talk to us about him. I saw he's like 6'5", but he runs like, what was it, 10-2 or what was it?
10-2-8.
Yeah. He was like right at 10-2. He legitimately has a chance. He's not going to, but he legitimately had a chance to compete and run in the Olympics this summer, and he probably will here one day. But he's awesome because he's a track athlete, but he's not a track athlete that comes out and plays football. He sees himself as a football player that just happens to run track, you know. So he's tough. He's physical. He loves football. He's a great young man, and yeah, he's got all the tools for sure. I mean, he's a big guy that can run and very, very raw at football. I actually went to the same high school as Anton Harrison that was there at Oklahoma as well. That's the first time I ever met Nick, is when I was at Oklahoma, and I came up to DC to try and recruit Anton, and I met Nick in the school that day as well, and then fortunately he decided to come to South Carolina. But yeah, he's a great young man and has a big upside on the track and on the football field both.
It's cool to see that you're on the schedule this year as one of Oklahoma's home games. And so just talk about your team a little bit, you know, for all the Sooner fans that are watching, what to expect from your team. I know you have a new quarterback this year who has one of the greatest aesthetics in the game with the rec specs, Lenore Sellers. You know, you announced him as your starting quarterback after spring ball. So, I mean, shout out to him because that aesthetic is second to none. So look forward to seeing that on Saturdays. But talk about your team a little bit, you know, for the Sooner fans who, you know, maybe unfamiliar with it going into playing Oklahoma this year.
Yeah. First of all, looking forward. Our fans are super excited about coming out to Norman and coming to a place where we've never been before. And can't tell you how many people have told me they've booked flights to come out there and how excited they are for that trip. So a lot of people looking forward to coming out there, myself included. My wife and kids are disappointed. I saw it was announced this week it's going to be an early kickoff because my wife and kids, they had like their whole plan for like their trip to Norman, and they wanted to go up to OKC and go to some favorite restaurants and places in Norman and old friends they wanted to see and things like that. So they'll have to pack a lot in to a short period of time. But no, we're excited. We got a good group coming back. Obviously, record-wise last year did not finish the way that we wanted. We, you know, overachieved. If you base off preseason projections, we overachieved in our first two seasons and underachieved last year. And there's reasons for that. And as a head coach, it's my job to make those, you know, make the changes and do the things we have to do in order to continue to move forward. And like what we've done with the team, with the program, we've got a good group of older guys that are returning that have been, they're going into their fifth year in our program, a handful of guys like that, and then a really good group of young talent. We've recruited really, really well. So, you know, that game's, I guess, October, so kind of mid-season, but we'll be breaking in a lot of new faces, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. You mentioned the quarterback, new running back core, 3 or 5 running backs will be new, a lot of new receivers, a couple of new tight end to go along with some guys. So like everybody, we brought in freshmen and transfer portal guys, and a lot of new faces on offense, a lot of returning guys on defense, but like the group and like what they're about and like the way they've been working and eager to get going.
Yeah, we'll be joining them. We're also making a transition, obviously, into the SEC and our fan base, you know, as well. Everyone's asking the question, you know, what is it to get SEC ready? You know, what's the biggest difference in playing in the SEC compared to another Power, I guess, 4 conference now, or, you know, because you've played in a bunch of them, so.
Yeah, you know, you're right. I've been in the Big 12, ACC, SEC, and all of them are great leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I just think, one, Oklahoma's SEC ready. I mean, they've done a great job of recruiting over the years. Coach Venable's done a great job of bringing in good players, coming off a great year last year. And Oklahoma's always had great lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and that's where it all starts. To me, that's the biggest thing in the SEC is on the field. To me, is just like the depth and the level of talent on the defensive line. You know, I know when I felt like when I was at Oklahoma coaching tight ends and we were in the Big 12, when I'm trying to get ready for a game and prepare the tight ends and H-backs at Oklahoma for Saturday, when we start talking about other teams' defensive linemen, there might be one guy on that defensive line that you're concerned about, you know, like, hey, this guy can wreck us and whatnot. I just feel like in the SEC, every game, there's about 4, 5, 6, sometimes like 8 or 9 of those guys on the defensive line where you're like, all right, fellas, like we got a big battle challenge this week. So it's just the level of talent on the D line and the depth. And then I just think it's so cool and I love it. It's one of the things, I mean, what makes the SEC great is just the venues and the stadiums that you get to go into every single Saturday. And Oklahoma's been to SEC stadiums before. I know Oklahoma beat Tennessee a couple years before I got to Oklahoma up in Knoxville. And I think your dad, Isaac, I think they had a game. I think they played at Alabama back early in your dad's tenure, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Fake the punt late in the game, if I remember correctly. So they've been in stadiums before, but just imagine doing that 4 times a year. Or I guess 3 times a year for you guys, depending on the OU Texas game. But that's what I love. I mean, you're not going into – I'm not going to name any opponents in the Big 12, but you don't really go into stadiums where there's 20,000 people or 25 or 30 or 35. I mean, every single Saturday you're basically going into a stadium that's got 60, 70, 80, 90, 100,000 people, and it's packed every single Saturday. So that's those are the 2 things that stand out to me, but love it and nothing like this league for sure.
No, I think a lot of people were excited to see you on the schedule, but a lot of people were also hoping in the first year we were going to go to William Bryce Stadium because I love the Sandstorm, I love the Towels, and so I look forward to seeing that in the future. We were hoping maybe this year, but maybe in the future seeing Sandstorm in person. Yeah. I mean, I might have to join in. Just nobody video me because it looks electric.
It'll be worth the wait as well. So looking forward to whenever that is for sure. I guess in 2025, I guess is what it'll end up being.
Yeah. One last thing, we like to have any of our guests ask us any questions. We never give them any heads up, so there's no prep. It's just got to be off the top. But any questions for Isaac or myself about our upbringing, about ourselves, about our opinions on anything?
What stadium we're most excited for? I don't know.
Can I ask each of you 2? Do I get a bonus question too?
Sure. Go for it.
We'll keep it cool.
All right. So the first question would be, you kind of alluded to it with me in regards to going into coaching. Did you guys coming out of high school, because I know what it was going out of high school, everybody just assumed that I was going to go to Virginia Tech. Did you guys always want to go to Oklahoma? And Isaac, I know when you were coming to high school, that's when I got hired. So I know you had some things going on in recruiting and things like that at other schools that were recruiting you. Did you guys ever consider seriously going somewhere other than Oklahoma? That would be my first question.
I was pretty close to going to Arkansas. I was like about this close, but ended up just, I don't know. This is a hard place to beat, and that's just kind of what it came down to. That's a pretty short answer. That was the really only other school I really, really considered going to. Northwestern too. I really liked Northwestern in Chicago.
Brains guy right there. But I kind of was the opposite. I really wanted to go, maybe not anywhere but OU, but I was looking for every reason not to go to OU, kind of for the similar reasons. You just want to make your own path. You just want to be known for who you are, maybe not, what for your dad is, even though all the positive things that go with that, but you just want to blaze your own trail. So I looked at a lot of schools, and I wasn't going to play football at that time in college, but it just came down to making a pros and cons list. And then when OU stacked up against those other schools, I really liked TCU. It was close and everything. But when you made a pros and cons list, I'm like, why am I leaving to a school that has less pros? And so
TCU's like 70% girls. This guy is not slick.
we don't have to say that, but it may have been a factor. It may have been on the pros list, but of that. And so when it came down to that, it was like, just because the school is 15 minutes from my house, it's the clear number one. And so at that point I was like, I'd be dumb to leave. And so I did. And I tell everybody it was still like, one of the best decisions of my life.
Definitely. No, that makes sense. I felt like I'm in the same boat when I was coming to high school for sure. All right. And then my bonus question, my last one, obviously you guys are still young and just kind of getting going with the next phase of your life. But do you have an idea of what you want to be doing in 10 years, or is it still so early you're still not really sure what direction you're going with things 10 years from now?
I've been dabbling it lately. I've kind of switched jobs from what I was doing out of college. I really like the sports management, sports agency, that kind of side of the business. That's really attractive to me, and I could see myself being very happy doing that.
Yep.
I've dabbled in so many professions after college. Right now I work in sales for a corporate, probably not my end career. Hope my boss is not listening to this right now, but not my end career. But I mean,
you love it. If your boss is listening, you love it.
Exactly. I love it. I wake up and I breathe securities class action. So that's what I do. But that's my 9 to 5. But I love this. I love the media stuff. I'll never close the door on going back in athletics. It's crazy right now. I'm not saying that's what's keeping me out, but that may be less appealing at this moment. But I mean, I'm loving the media side, and so I like talking about it. I think I have a semi-informed opinion because of my diverse background, whether that be coaching, playing, or growing up around the business. So I love this media side. I'm very fortunate with Sooner Scoop, bringing us on and allowing us the opportunity. So I'm looking forward to growing in this. So if I was doing something of this similar capacity in 10 years, I'd be really happy.
Yep, that's cool. No, you guys are pros already, and going to be great at what you continue to do. So fired up to continue to track you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. And good luck this year. We'll see you in mid-October. Hopefully we'll get to see you then.
Yep, absolutely. No, look forward to it. If I can ever do anything, let me know. Appreciate you guys and your families and all you have done for me in my life and career as well. So tell everybody back there I said hi.
Will do. Thank you, Coach. For everybody watching, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us help you. It helps bring on fantastic guests like Coach Beamer. So we'll see you next week, and remember to keep it in the family.